starting it now. Welcome back to the Legislative Lounge. We are your hosts, Nate Big and Professor Mike, and we're glad to be back with you guys. We hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, and we're gearing up for the New Year holidays with Christmas and New Year's coming up. I just want to welcome you guys all in, but we definitely got a special treat for you guys tonight. A lot of talks have been going, and fear mongering has been going into the whole tariff talks that Trump has been talking about, and a lot of people, including the glorious Google, has it all wrong for a particular narrative that they're pushing. And tonight we want to provide you guys with the actual information. And to do so, we're actually bringing in one of our great friends that is extremely knowledgeable in this area. He's been known to be giving debates on this all over TikTok and social media in general. But we want to welcome back to the stage American Lumberjack.
Hello.
Hey,
How you doing, brother?
Doing all right. How you guys doing, man?
it's a
Good.
beautiful day.
Very beautiful day.
Absolutely. So we're gonna just jump right in with Mike. We're gonna bring up. I know the problem with a lot of people is that they think that tariffs are a tax because that's all they keep hearing on social media, on the TV, from the Democrats. It's a tax. It's a tax. But
Mhm.
let's actually look at the legal definition of what a tariff is per Black's Law Dictionary.
I'm all about it.
Go ahead, Mike.
So, Black's Law Dictionary, second edition, defines tariff as a cartel of commerce, a book of rates, a table or catalog drawn usually in alphabetical order, containing the names of several kinds of merchandise with the duties or customs to be paid for the same, as settled by authority or agreed on between the several princes and states that hold commerce together.
Wait. Can you read that last part where it's starting with the AGREE word?
Or agreed on between the several princes and states that hold commerce together.
Now I know a lot of people are going around talking about taxes, LJ, but can you are you able to negotiate or agree upon taxes?
No, not at all. The rate is set by your representatives, and that's it, whether you like it or not. And you have to wait a certain term in time to be able to have that changed again. And the only way you really can negotiate that at all is by voting in someone different. And they may not necessarily be able to do anything about that once they get there. So
Hmm.
it's really out of your hands.
It's quite interesting looking at the actual definition that Mike just read off. Nowhere in there did I see the word taxes, but it did say duty repeatedly
hmm
through it. So obviously, we would want to know the difference between the tax and a duty. You want to
Yeah,
expand on that, Mike?
I think I don't think I have the definition of duty, but when you're talking the difference between tax and duty, a duty is simply an obligation to the contract.
So the
Yeah.
contract between two countries, right?
Two countries, two corporations, what have you, when it comes to the purchasing and selling of goods.
Okay. So
And
you
there's
see,
there's different types of duties as well. There is not just on tariffs. I mean, you have duty of tonnage, duty of water, um, you have duty on sales, duty on net, duty on lottery. It's not necessarily a tax as people would say. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interject.
no, that's fine. And I mean, when it comes to this, there's a lot of areas that people are just fuzzy on when it comes to tariffs in and of itself, just because it's not one of those things that we particularly deal with on a daily basis. Because honestly, the only one that has power over it is the president himself, right? Exactly. So in doing that, I mean, there's many different facets to the tariff besides just the definition of understanding it's not a tax because You can't negotiate taxes, and you can't also tax another country. So, what would be the terminologies that people should know going into a tariff talk?
Whenever you're talking about tariffs, you have to understand the contract, and the contract embodies incoterms.
Okay.
And
Oh,
LJ is incredibly knowledgeable on incoterms.
right.
It's like my favorite thing. I'm almost tired of talking about it, but your international commercial terms are what are agreed upon between two bodies, whether it's a person to person, company to company, corporation to corporation, or country to country. And when they agree upon these things, they work in 11 different fields of areas, and they don't have to necessarily just pick one. They can actually pick from each one to benefit the country overall. So when you impose a percentage, that percentage is saying, hey, this part of the incoterm, this much percentage is going to fall upon you, and we will take care of the rest. Otherwise, if it weren't set at all, we would be taking on all of the obligation, as opposed to anything that is imported to our country, which would mean that we would almost be working in X Works, which is the very first one. Which your X Works, the only obligation that is had by the seller or the other country would be about 5% to 10%. That means you would be taking on 95% to 90% of the obligation. Whereas when Trump says, if you don't do this, China, then we're going to impose a 60% tariff on you, they're working in the middle half to lower half of an Incoterm, meaning that they're going to put 60% of the obligation on that other country to get that product here, which everybody says, oh, well, that's going to fall back to the person that is the buyers or consumers, but it doesn't, because it's paid across. That 60% is paid across how it's transported, because they're going to break that up and not take that full brunt themselves.
Mhm.
And that therein lies helping the person. So the most we've ever seen, because it works in a field of between 3 and 18%. The biggest we've ever seen was during the Great Depression, and that was a 9.4% or 9.5% increase to the actual consumer. But we were in a depression. On average, we run anywhere from 3 to 3.4%, 3.5% to the consumer, which you don't know that it's negligible. You wouldn't notice it. Even if they put a full 18% on the consumer to take care of whatever percentage they see fit, it would not hurt you to the point that you think it would. It's
Now, you
scary
had.
tactics.
Go ahead, Mike.
I think this is one of the most important things to talk about, especially when you're talking about tariffs and how the price translates to the consumer. And I think a lot of people are scared of that. And
Well,
oh,
before we
go ahead.
jumped into that, though, I know that LJ had mentioned just a moment ago the Incoterms, right? There was 11 of them, which I actually have them up right quick. I'm not sure how familiar you are with them, but for anybody that does want to know what they are, you can go to the International Trade Administration that breaks down the 7 Incoterms of 2020 rules for any module transport, and then you come down here, there's the next 4 that has to do with sea and inland waterway transport.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to point that out because these are aspects of tariffs that you absolutely want to know if you're going to fully understand it. Now, I'll admit I'm still learning myself because it's not something that I'm adversed in. So, for anybody else, if you weren't aware of these, definitely go check them out, read up on them. But let's
That
jump
is a
into this.
.gov website too for all those. It's got to be a .gov. That is .gov. So you're not dealing with some rudimentary website that could be true, could not be true. Also, those terms are renegotiated every 4 years. Whether whether it's a presidential year or not, they're renegotiated every 4 years. But they only remain in those 11 fields that are renegotiated.
And what I was getting at is how the price translates to the consumer or even to companies here. So when we talk about Trump and his tariffs in his first term, right? he had something like $80 billion worth of tariffs, majority of which were imposed on China. Now, if we look back 8 years ago, China was basically leading the automotive electrical energy sector. What else broke out at that time? Tesla.
Mhm.
Tariffs were imposed on China. What took off? American made Tesla, which is if you didn't know, Tesla is probably the most American made auto manufacturer in the country right now. And also, another note, a little side note on that Great Depression, another reason why people were suffering so much was not just the price increase on that aspect, but also the imposition of taxes on all forms of income, which was imposed in
Mhm.
1913 through the 16th Amendment.
Mhm. Yep. Which got worse between 1916 and 1933 with the implementation of the Banking Act, which took all your gold and silver.
Yeah, it's crazy when the government just comes in and says, "No, that's mine."
Mhm.
It's almost like we fought a revolution over stuff like that.
And before we move on, I would like to get this out of the way early, just for people to understand. The reason why you're seeing all of these economists and the Congress people like Rand Paul, who he tweeted that he wanted to put a bill out that would give Congress control over tariffs and limit how much a president could tariff. The reason why they want to do that is because the president is the one that is solely in control of any funding done by tariffs. Congress only makes money or has money to work with when it's through taxes on the American people. So this is why we also say it's not a tax, because if it's a tax, by definition, that means Congress, your Senate and your House of Representatives would have control over those funds. Trump has complete control over those. Bush, Biden, Obama, every president that's ever imposed a tariff has control over those funds, and it's the only funds that they could use as they see fit.
Hmm. And back to the energy sector real quick. So Biden kept majority, if not all, of Trump's tariffs. If
All of them.
anybody didn't know that, and then he
All of them.
added two. And if you can go back into the stock market and look at Tesla's stock price. They shot through the roof. They're $300 a share now, and
Mhm.
that has to do with the price that China has to pay in order to import their goods in regards to the energy sector. There's no one beating Elon Musk in the electrical automotive energy sector.
But I
Mm-mm.
mean, a lot of people are afraid of the understanding that, these prices that they're going to be paying are going to be impacted due to the fact that they think that the amount of money that's being pushed onto the products being imported are just going to trickle down into the consumer paying for that.
It's funny when they start mentioning stuff like trickle down. I didn't think trickle down economics worked.
Well, in that particular facet where you're talking about, we saw Canada impose tariffs on America when Biden shut down the pipeline. They did not like that. They felt like, hey, we had a good thing going. You shut this down. As a retaliatory movement, we're going to shut down this of you shutting us down with this, because that pipeline would have made both Canada and America money. Of course, more for Canada because it was their pipeline. So they put a retaliatory tariff on import of timber. Where does America get majority of their timber from?
Hmm.
Canada. And so this is why you saw the price of wood shoot through the roof, because they imposed a heavy tariff on us. So only time you really see a price hike is when countries are imposing tariffs on us, not the other way around. And the way we combat that is we start making deals in a manner that would allow us to negotiate with them, saying, hey, we'll give you this if you lower this tariff percentage, or we'll do this if you drop this tariff, and so on and so forth. Or another negotiation tool is to counter tariff them
Hmm.
on something that they need as much as we need the timber. And then you'll see them say, okay, well, since you want to do that, we'll drop the tariff or we'll reduce the percentage. So therefore, we can both make good funds on both everything and not be put in a hole.
And the problem that the left has, I guess, with that whole logic is they fear, or there's some fear mongering going on, saying that if we're just going to go back and forth with this, oh, I'm going to tariff you if you tariff me type of situation, it's going to make all the prices of everything just skyrocket. But in all reality, it's like LJ said, that it's going to force their hand because we are the biggest consumer in the world by far. And the fact is that when it comes to China's tariffs, just to put this in perspective of people that are totally against tariffs, China tariffs an average of 341% higher than the United States, and the European Union tariffs an average of 50% higher than the United States. The world average tariff is more than twice that of the United States. So we are literally the lowest tariff country. Like when we tariff other countries, nobody comes twice as close to us than anybody else. We are the absolute lowest. Like when it comes to food items like cereal or other proprietary goods are tariffed at a 32.9% by India, 19.5% by China, and only 3.1% by the United States. India implies a tariff of 25.3% on transportation equipment, while we only tariff them at 2.9%. So if we're going to be talking about tariffs, you understand that these other countries are tariffing us to death because we are the biggest consumer. So we're taking the brunt of these percentages. We're only trying to make an even keel. Like, hey, if you're going to tariff us, we're going to do it back, or we're at least going to meet you at your level. And at that point, it's an even playing field because we keep telling you, Donald Trump keeps telling you that we're getting screwed in all of our trade deals, and the numbers are showing us that.
Exactly. I was on X, like I usually am, just scrolling through the posts, and I came across this post in regards to tariffs, and this lady tried to make the claim that avocados are going to go up to $1 because Donald Trump's going to impose a 25% tax on avocados in Mexico. Not realizing we get 90% of our avocados from California.
Avocado. You can go to Sam's Club. I can get a bag of 6 of them for like, I don't know, $6 or something like that. They're already $1. I don't know what they're talking about.
Well, those Karens, they get really testy when you start touching their avocado toast.
You go here in Texas, we got HEB, right? I'm looking it up right now. At HEB, you get a 5 count for $6.16. That's well over $1 per avocado right now. It's $1. What, 28, something like that? Quick math. But either way, it's well over $1. So
Right.
these people continuously say things without actually having anything to back it up. That's the problem.
My thing about tariffs is when you impose the tariff and the price is negotiated and agreed upon, because that's the main point. It has to be agreed upon. Another way that country gets around that tariff is to establish a base of operations inside the United States. Right? They can skirt the tariff that way, and that makes us more money as a country. But also imposing these tariffs on foreign goods allows domestic product to be more competitive.
Right. And then, the thing is like people, when the United States sets low tariffs on like foreign goods, foreign countries, they don't reciprocate. They don't show us the same amount of percentage, basically, but which allows them to flood our market with cheap goods, like China, for instance. Like most of their stuff is complete garbage coming here while keeping high protective tariffs on their own market, which only enriches them.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see so many people out here talking about tariffs as if they're just this doomsday scenario that's going to implode our economy, when in all reality, we're the biggest consumer. Nobody will survive unless we consume.
Yeah, overall, I really hate the rhetoric that's being spread because it's all based off of ignorance. And I think they know and the media knows these people aren't going to go do their due diligence and look up these words and really dive in deep. They're just surface people. Oh, tariff bad. And then they go regurgitate these talking points just so, like you were saying earlier, to keep their subpar products. Like, do you realize that buying from China, which is one of the world's major exporters, you're not going to get products that are high quality. So I have this one cup right here, Chinese cup, pretty good cup, supposed to be leak proof, leaks like a sieve. I have this high quality product, which is it has a German name, but it's American made. This thing does not leak. I could throw it across the room, throw it through my window, pick it up, kick it across the field, and it does not leak. American made, Chinese made, leaks, doesn't leak, proclaims that it doesn't leak, but leaks like a sieve. So why are you caping for subpar shit? Why would you not want to tariff that so that they can then come to America and make shit in America and it be better for us?
Mm-hmm. Well, we also got to understand that the government doesn't want their pocketbook affected, because once we
Facts.
start reaping the benefits of a full tariff system and hopefully
Mhm.
abolish the federal tax system, the American consumer is going to reap the benefits largely,
Mhm.
because the Wharton School of Finance, they did an analysis, and unfortunately, the left only uses half of that analysis when it comes to analyzing Trump's tariff plan, which Nate and I have gone over, and I think you have as well, LJ.
And
And what they're
Yes.
talking about is a full tariff system would increase the cost annually for the average family about $5,000. The removal of the federal taxing program would allow that family, after you allocate for the $5,000 change, that family would pocket 10 to 15,000 annually.
And,
We
and
are
then
we are taxed ridiculously.
you look at the overall tax system going away as well, which would add an additional $18,000 to everyone's pocket. So you
Mm-hmm.
could possibly pump out 30,000 plus to the good, and that's for anyone and everyone that makes $40,000 a year. So now those $40,000 a year are now making 70,000 plus a year, which I don't know anyone that wouldn't like 5,000 more or 10,000 more or 15,000 more or $30,000 more to their pocket. And if anybody says anything different, you're a space cadet. And to not have you guys demonetized, but you're a space cadet, because ultimately, if what they're saying were to come to pass and we get rid of all this other stuff but keep the tariffs, the most you would see increase would be anywhere from $2,500 to $4,500. But it wouldn't matter because you would have $15,000 to $30,000 more in your pocket.
Not to
absolutely.
mention, not to mention, you have domestic product, which would be making a comeback. Much more efficient product, much
Mhm.
more
Right. Because
dependable product.
right, and that's because of the whole tariff system. I mean, that's basically the main goal of Donald Trump, to use the tariff system is to incentivize people to come back here and start providing more jobs and more, economic stimulation by creating here in America. I mean, and there's a whole nother
Mhm.
aspect to the whole tariff system that a lot of people aren't talking about, is the fact that if we were to start implementing it, it would actually help us in regards to our deficit. The problem is, since Joe Biden's taken office, and his whole globalist trade policies, they've basically within it's the U.S. trade deficit increased to nearly $1 trillion, his highest point ever under him. That was just last year. The agricultural deficit shot up more than $2 billion last year and is projected to increase to 14.5 billion in 2023. At the end of 2023 is what it was projected to be. So we'll see those numbers here shortly coming out. But then also it was talking about the trade deficit with China has also risen by 10%. to $383 billion just this last year and a half. I mean, so when you implement this, it'll allow us to also attack what the second most important thing to people is. One is the prices of things, and two is this exorbitant amount of spending versus how much debt we have. We're at $36 trillion, and implementing these type of tariffs can help us in those aspects of being able to dwindle that back down to where it needs to be.
Not to mention, we wouldn't like if we were to completely abolish the federal income tax system, we wouldn't have congressional spending on stupid shit like $450 million transgender monkey studies.
Mm.
or $3 million steroid hamster fights.
What is that, like there was a couple $1 billion that went over to Egypt to help with the funding of gender studies and all this other nonsense that's not even here in America. It's like, besides the monkey studies, I mean, they're, whatever, but I mean, like, we're literally sending money over to people to for these degrees that have absolutely no worth in society.
And where's PETA at? I thought PETA was against animal cruelty. You got hamsters, monkeys, horses, gophers, rats. All these animals are being tested on, and cats on treadmills being ran to death. And where are you at, PETA? Like, you should be pro tariff, anti over government spending, and really, like you said, we really gotta grab Congress by the cojones and squeeze, because they're like kids in a candy store just giving money away because they want to.
And whenever we come across people, you've done it, LJ's done it, I've done it. They all agree that Congress irresponsibly spends, but they don't want to get rid of the underlying issue, which is the exorbitant amount of taxes. It's hypocritical. And when we look at prior to 1913, and even prior to the 1890 President McKinley Tariff Act, like, America was extremely self-reliant, self-sufficient. That was during the industrial age, where we were just climbing. We were leading the world.
Yeah, so America, historically, they imposed over 95% of all imports, tariff on over 95% of all imports, with an average of 37% during the America's economic climb between 1816 and 1947. Over 80% of its revenue during that time period came from tariffs. So we solely worked off of tariffs.
With some small excise taxes.
And taxing the hell out of corporations. Yes. Corporations had anywhere from 60 to 90% taxes. Hey, people on the left, Democrats, liberals, I thought you want to tax these people more. But it's almost like you're brainwashed not to do research, for one, and then brainwashed to believe that these are bad things, but want these people that you hate, i.e. corporations, i.e. lobbyists, to be shut down, but go against the very thing that would do that immediately. Look at taxes on companies in between the 1920s and the 1970s. Absorbent amount of money. Like these, I don't even know how these corporations survived. They were being taxed so much.
Oh, you know how they survived. The entire premise behind the 1913 16th Amendment was to drive congressional insider trading. That's something nobody wants to talk about. Congress lining their own pockets.
Oh, well, they've been having hearings about it. I forget the guy's name. He's got brown hair, young guy, congressman, and he's been calling out the insider trading in the congressional hearings I've been watching. I'm like, this dude,
is that Josh
he's probably
Hawley?
Going up in a river.
Is that Josh Hawley, Senator Josh Hawley?
I don't know. He's young. I think he might be 34 or 36, 37. He's young. He's not an old guy at all. And he's also not rich by any means. But he was trying to impose a restriction on insider trading in our Congress. And he calls out Nancy Pelosi, who is now worth over $200 million.
Yeah. That's ridiculous. On a $174,000 salary.
At her height, it was like 203 as the speaker, but yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and I've done the math before. You go back, she's been in office for what, 49 years now or something like that. She should only have like, I think it was like the math came out to like, if she saved every penny and never spent a dime, it was like $10 million or something like that. Like, there's no way that she's worth $200 million just off of what she does. She's obviously doing something on the side, guys. Like, let's just
Well,
be for real.
Jeff,
And I understand there's people on the right that do it too, and they're not actually there to. Most people in Congress are there just to help themselves, honestly.
our forefathers wrote it into our Constitution that any type of excise tax should be uniform across the board. Article 1, Section 6, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
And it's to deter acts like that, right? Because Congress control commerce. Commerce is
J-
driven by
Josh
taxes.
Hawley.
Yeah.
Haley, Hawley.
Yeah,
Hawley.
Josh Hawley.
Yeah.
Is that
I-
Senator Josh Hawley is hot.
And well, there's a Democrat that's right there along with him, Jeff Merkley.
Oh yeah. Jeff Hawley's out of Missouri, so
Mhm.
that's what I was.
But it's no, go ahead. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, I
No,
was
go
just
ahead.
gonna say I know Matt Gaetz was also talking about doing something like that here comes soon, so I think he's working on something behind the scenes as well. So it'll be interesting to see.
We need it. We need it because I don't care about them, signing away their business while they're in office. I don't care about that. Do that. But like the Merkley said, once in office, no more trading. Your business can't trade anymore. You can't sell and you can't buy while you're in office. When you get out of office, you can do whatever you want. But these people are receiving information early and making money. It's not even necessarily really insider trading, but they're getting tips early. This tip's going to be released tomorrow. So here, go ahead and jump on this right now. And then the tip's released to everybody and boom, it happens. But these people make major moves because they put in $300,000-$400,000 on this and get a $600,000 return on it because they're jumping on it early, whereas we don't have that opportunity. And we end up losing out because they push the prices way up and to something we can't afford, or maybe we just afford 1/10 of what they can, and we lose out on that. Whereas before that, we would be able to afford more, and ultimately, they're getting money. Congress is getting money both from us as taxpayers through this arbitrary insider trading, and they're being padded. We know their pockets are being padded whenever they send money to these other countries.
Oh yes, and they have a direct. I think you already said it. They have a direct insider link to the stock exchange. I wish I had that link. I wish because I don't know if I know LJ and I are tracking it right now. The stock market is going through the roofs. The crypto market is going through the roofs. And please, if you're if there's never been a better time, and there is currently a cryptocurrency that everyone should invest in, it should be invested in, and that's Shiba Inu. Just get a little bit, invest $10, and it'll change your life. And you could be like Congress too. And $10 can change your life. A simple slash of these zeros, and that $10 can turn into thousands.
That ultimately, we if we're going to survive as America, government be damned. If we're going to survive as America, these tariffs have to go through. We have to get a stranglehold on it because I was looking at a chart the other day that my friend Dependa sent me, and it showed the trade wars and how between Trump leaving office and how much percentage we had, and when Trump got into office, how much percentage we had. Through the Obama 8 years, we lost a chunk. It was like 19%. Trump leaves office, we lose an additional 24% of trading power in the world to China. And China now, if you look at the map and the math and the graphs, China now has trade power in almost every major country on the planet. And America's is almost negligible. It's almost nil.
Right? Absolutely. And that's kind of like what we're just trying to get people to understand is like when it comes to this whole tariff situation, it's just getting people to understand that we are not on a even playing field when it comes to a foreign stage, when it comes to China, when it comes to the European Union. And everybody keeps thinking that America is trying to like gouge everybody and do all this other things when in all reality, we're the ones that are being stiffed on every turn. Donald Trump's just the one that's willing to actually call it out because the people up in Capitol Hill, they don't care because they're getting their kickbacks in a lot of different areas that they don't want to tell you about. So they're going to continue down the road of, oh, we're just going to do what we're going to do because if you do this, we're going to tell these people that don't know anything, they're asked from their mouth that, oh, it's going to increase the prices. When in reality, what it's going to do is it's going to force companies to come back here, create more jobs, stimulate
Mhm.
our economy even more, which will then drive prices down ultimately, which is the entire plan. So the whole point of doing this episode is to first of all teach y'all what a tariff is because I don't care what Google says. Like Google, I'm so sick of hearing the word Google in the live debates. It's just I want to start slapping people because of the fact that Google is literally being sued for putting information at the top of their list that might not be accurate, and their trade practices they're being told to sell off parts of their company because of how they operate. And the thing
Mhm.
about it is, guys, it's not a search engine. It's a pay for play platform to push whatever whoever pays the most. So
Mhm.
stop using Google, start using law dictionaries and actually looking at this information. That
That's
is the
all me.
entire
That's all we use. Law dictionaries.
I mean, when it comes to me, LJ and Mike, we only use law books. We use .govs. We don't use anything else. If you're using anything else, you're not doing it correctly because you're going to get whatever you want to find and not the truth. That's the reality of researching, which is a whole
Yes.
other word that I hate hearing because people say, "Oh, I done my research." Like you didn't even know how to start research if you're using Google.
Mhm.
Stop it. You guys look foolish. And that's
I
why we
can't.
want to help you.
I can't count how many times people short circuit when LJ or I get on the tariff conversation and we ask the same question. We started off. Do you know what incoterms are?
Just their brains just like shut down mode. And I've done it 3 self-proclaimed, and I say self-proclaimed because I really couldn't validate whether or not they were economists or not. Out of the 4 that I've talked to, only 1 actually gave me their credentials, and they really were an economist. And they said that they did not know about Incoterms and that they would do their research and come back to me later. The other 3, the self-proclaimed ones, they were teacup gone.
And it's super simple to understand once you do your research. And but the
Mhm.
problem is we have a population of 65 million that are illiterate. So, if in case y'all didn't know, 21% of the American population is illiterate, which amounts to about 65 million, or 1 in every 5 Americans can't
Mhm.
read or write. The other, the other
54%.
54% have a below sixth grade reading comprehension level. This is what we're fighting against, and these people are allowed to vote, which is why I
Mhm.
think that there needs to be a civics test administered.
And people don't
75% of our population can't read.
it's crazy. And
Go ahead,
people
go
need
ahead,
to
Mike.
understand. No, it's just people need to understand just because, oh, they're an economist, they're an expert, there's a this, there are that, doesn't mean they're giving you the truth. Because we have
Hmm.
found so many times experts and whatnot giving information incorrectly on purpose. So we can get out here and we can say, oh, we can, like, it's the whole thing going back to COVID, just using it as an example, not getting into it. You said over and over again, oh, trust the experts, trust the science, until the science came out and told the experts they were idiots. And then it was like, oh, no, 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 that's wrong. That's wrong. It's the same thing, especially when it comes to economists, because they're paid to tell you whatever they're paid to tell you. That's the reality of it. So stop listening to these people and start looking into the actual information. And no,
Hmm.
Google is not a source.
No, no, no. Like if you've ever been to college, they tell you not to use Google.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like I'm in college right now. They harp on don't use Google because they're not reputable sources. There's no citation to be found. Even Google Scholar has its flaws. And
Mhm.
when we start talking about tariffs and the taxing, and the left loves to use the phrase tax the rich, make them pay their fair share, but they also don't understand that is the biggest form of hidden sales tax. When you
Mhm.
tax the rich, they're gonna account for that difference, and it's
Yeah,
gonna be
they're
in
gonna
the
fire
products.
people.
Walmart did
That
it.
Yeah, yep. Oh yeah, that's Nate. One of Nate's favorite talking points right now. What happened to Walmart's DEI?
It's crazy. The whole you know what? We can get into that next week. The whole DEI situation, just because it's been so fun and it seems to be like a trending topic right now.
Oh my
Because everyone
goodness.
wants to point out the fact, oh, Donald Trump, he only has 2 black guys in his cabinet. Meh. Like, okay, does that mean that the other people aren't qualified to do the job? Like, what
That
are we
part.
doing here? Like,
That
I
part.
thought we were supposed to be hiring people who could do the best or who you think can do the best. Like, I ain't gonna come up into your business and say, "Hey, you got 3 white guys and this black guy. These 3 white guys are more qualified than the black guy, so you got to hire the black guy because he's black." I'm not doing that to you, so why would we do that to the president? Like, we literally
Is
told the president, "Here, take over this. You put the best people you think into place, and go from there." Like, I don't care what their skin color is.
is Kosh Patel suddenly white now?
Well, technically, he's Indian, right?
Yeah, he is a
Yeah,
real
so
Indian
te
and proclaims to be Indian.
technically,
So
per the U.S. consensus, the U.S. census, he is white.
Yeah.
yeah, we saw that on a birth certificate somewhere.
Well, but
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Mhm.
but yeah, we'll definitely have a couple of the topics next week. LJ, we definitely love that you came back. You're always welcome here. We love
I
having you
appreciate
on.
it,
Your
man.
wealth of knowledge. Anybody that doesn't follow LJ, go follow him on TikTok and all his other platforms. But definitely thank you for coming up. Mike, take us home.
All right. If you are not already following the greatest podcast in America, please go follow us on YouTube, Facebook, which we can now stream live on, Instagram, TikTok, Rumble, Twitch, and Patreon. And have a blessed day.